Hey folks, Aniruddh here. Welcome back to the channel. Hope you're all good and taking care of yourselves. So guys, in today's explainer video, we're going to be delving deep into what market demand is and what entry barriers are. Now you might have heard these two terms thrown around together somewhere, but what exactly do these two things or two terms mean? Today we're going to be finding that out. So first and foremost, let's delve into what market demand is. Now, market demand is a very obvious term and all of you might have a good idea of what it is. Well, market demand is basically if you're getting into a business, you need to understand if there is a demand for your product or service in the market, only then you get into that particular business. Now, expanding it a bit further, you can go into the competition as well as the demand. Now, to make it a bit more interesting and to make it easier for you to understand, we're going to divide it into levels. At the surface level, you see if the demand is there. Whenever you're trying to get into a particular business model, you're going to see whether the demand is there in the market for your business, for your product or for your service. Alright, once you tick that off, then you're going to go a bit deeper on the second level. That would be if there is competition in your business, or if there is competition, then what kind of or what level of competition there is in your field. Alright, now the competition could be very high or it could be very low, and there could be a multitude of reasons for both of those things. Now if you go a level further below competition, you're gonna see that here comes what are known as entry barriers. Now entry barriers are very selective to certain businesses only, and these businesses are very easy to recognize. One such example would be financial institutions such as banks. Now you can all count the number of banks that you know on the palm of your hands, but you also know the need and the demand of these banks. That is, there is a very high demand but very low competition. Now in such cases, whenever you find a business idea or stumble on a business idea where you see that there is a very high demand but very low competition, those are the ideal businesses that any business entrepreneur would suggest you to get into. But what most people miss out is the entry barriers. What are the entry barriers of getting into such businesses? That is why entry barriers come at the third level whenever you're doing a deep dive into how feasible it is to get into a particular business model. Because as we have already established, banking institutions have a very high demand and a very low competition. Then why are not more people trying to get into this business? Well, it's because of entry barriers. It is not at all easy to establish a bank, especially a huge bank such as a scheduled bank. You start at the smallest scale, that is microfinance banks. And after that you go into NBFCs, that is non-banking financial corporations. And after that you go into banks which are normal banks, and still you are not into scheduled banks. And after all these three stages, you end up making or getting your bank scheduled as one of the main banks in a country. So the process is very hefty first and foremost. Now I'm not saying that microfinance banks don't earn. They definitely earn. But even to start a microfinance bank, there are a lot of restrictions there. And by restrictions, I simply mean entry barriers. Not just anybody, any run-of-the-mill guy can start a financial institution. It is very difficult because you need the approval of multiple government authorities and finally the approval from RBI, that is the Reserve Bank of India, to actually start such a financial institution. So this is where entry barriers come in. Whenever you see a particular business with heavy demand, low competition, then you need to ask yourself before jumping into that business or prepping yourself up to jump into that business, what are the entry barriers there? Once you've gotten a good idea and understood what the entry barriers are, and if you're able to actually surpass those entry barriers and get around them, or able to get the approvals and all those things to surpass those entry barriers, only then you should decide to get into a business idea. So what you've learned in this video is that don't assess a business model just by the market demand. Go a bit deeper and understand what is the state of competition in that business. Is the competition very high? Is the competition very low? Or what is the condition of competition in that business? Once you've ascertained that, then you go a level deeper and try to find out what are the entry barriers for that business. Now, after going through all this, you might have thought that entry barriers are not a good thing for you. But trust me, entry barriers are both pros and cons for you. If you are already in a business with high entry barriers, then it is a very big benefit and advantage for you because not anybody can get into that business and try to replace you. But if you're out of that business and if you're trying to get into a particular business, then those same entry barriers become a disadvantage for you, because you can see a very lucrative business idea which has very high demand but very low competition, but because of high entry barriers you're unable to get into it. So entry barriers can be thought of as both an advantage and a disadvantage considering where you're standing on the business cycle or on the business side of things. So next time you're trying to evaluate a business idea and thinking of whether or not to get into a particular business, definitely think of the entry barriers and make your decision based on those as well. I hope you guys would have learned something new in this video, and if you did, then definitely make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel as well, and leave your thoughts down in the comment section. I'll be sure to read them and respond to your queries. So with that said guys, I'll see you in the next one.